Greetings and welcome to Outlaw Gamer Radio, the official podcast of OutlawGamers.com. This is the show where we live to play and play to live. I'm Britt Adams, joined by a man who also has multiple tether points, although he doesn't know what the hell a grapple hook is. Mr. Lauren Baumgarten. Lauren!
What's up, Britt Adams?
How's it going, man?
Good, buddy. How are you?
I'm good, man. Glad to be back. Lots of exciting stuff to look forward to. In just a little bit, we're going to talk about, obviously, GamesCom. We got that coming up over the weekend. We got some Mafia 3 announcement on the way sooner rather than later. So there's just all kinds of cool stuff that's going to be happening after today when we record this show.
Yes, that's right.
Fucking news cycle assholes.
But we'll be here to talk about that too.
That's true. Just going to have to wait a little while on it. Something that you're not going to have to wait a little while on, if I could just hop on my segue and go into the first story in the garage, is the PC release of Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, because we have now found out that the PC Steam release of that game is now September 1st, bringing it into coalition, bringing it into coalescence with the console release of the fifth and final iteration of the Metal Gear franchise, at least probably under Kojima's stewardship.
They haven't said that.
But it was originally going to come out on September 15th, but Konami, because they care so much about you as a company, as opposed to those poor bastards that work for them, Konami has responded to calls from PC users. This is from their press release, and worked towards an earlier release date. The PC edition will now be available for pre-order via Steam alongside the PS4, PS3, Xbox One, and Xbox 360 editions. Fans who pre-order their PC copies of Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain via Steam will also receive a copy of Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. All Steam customers will receive a collector's video, which reveals behind-the-scenes footage and a unique documentary about how we chewed off our own nose to spite our face. No, wait, no.
I was just going to say,
it doesn't actually say that.
What do you suppose the behind-the-scenes documentary looks like? Do you think it's like just constant images of them almost panning over to Kojima?
It's Kojima and then sitting in a chair getting ready to talk, and then people rush into the room and like knock the camera over with a baseball bat.
Right, exactly. Or I had this image of them showing Kojima with like a big yellow smiley face covering up his face.
Yeah, but the smiley face is covered in bandages. So it all kind of is a big circle.
That is interesting, though. I'm very curious. How do you do a behind the scenes on a game like MGS5 that takes years to develop? And you have to. Do you think they're including him or not, Brett?
I would have to think that then he has to have been a part of that up to a point, which was maybe a few months ago where he was no longer a part of it. But he had to have been part of the development process. So if they're creating a documentary, then I would presume that he's going to be involved in some way, but well,
they excised his name from the game.
But I'm guessing that, what I was going to say is I'm guessing that any interview footage they have of this is stuff that they got over the course of the last few years.
Oh, certainly prior to this happening.
Everything going really, really wrong.
But I just wondered if they'd literally try and make this behind-the-scenes video and not include him in it consciously.
It's possible. I mean, it's totally possible. I really would not be surprised one way or the other at this point.
It'll be interesting to see. It's definitely good news for PC gamers, obviously, that this is going to come out at the same time. I'll be curious to see what the quality of the game is.
They can find out how broken their PC release is at the same time everybody else is enjoying their non-broken console release. It's
right, like every other game.
It's going to be great. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
I'm not cynical. Who are you talking about?
Speaking of broken, Brent, let me...
where's the segue here?
Just Cause 3.
Still not getting the broken segue. Unless you're talking about the face that somebody just got broken by Rico in his wingsuit.
I was actually alluding to the destruction in the game and how everything in the location is just completely destroyed.
I don't know if broken really communicates the amount of
sheer destruction,
high octane, wanton chaos that Just Cause 3 is going to be dishing out.
No, fair enough.
Broken's not a strong enough word.
So we have a dev diary, Brent, coming from Avalanche Studios for Just Cause 3. The title of the dev diary is Who is Rico?
Who cares? Rico's the guy that holds the gun, that fires the grapple hook, that wears the wingsuit that leads to high-octane destruction.
That's all you need to
and
know.
in the first 2 games, that really was kind of the point. Is who's Rico? Who cares? But now
it was. I actually thought it was really interesting watching this, Brent, and hearing them say, like, in the first Just Cause, Rico did little more than mumble, and that was actually a conscious decision.
I think a direct quote is, in the first game, Rico is sort of a mumbling idiot. And that was intentional.
That's exactly right. I thought that was interesting. So I think I'm excited. So what I really liked about this, Brent. So first of all, what I really liked about this is that it was 5 minutes and 50 seconds of shit about Just Cause 3.
Yeah, I have to agree. That's probably its strongest.
First and foremost, I did love to hear that they have 2,500 unique animations for Rico. That's kind of cool. But what I really liked the most about this, and I like this. I like to watch the wingsuit. I love the wingsuit. I love the way it's looking. What I really liked, though, was hearing them talk about how, while they're trying to give Rico more character, both graphically and from a writing standpoint, they always had it in the forefront of their minds that it could never be at the expense of the responsiveness of the character. Yeah. And I think that was of this whole video, which is just a lot of fun to watch. That was the most reassuring thing to me, is that they recognize that they have a good thing going with regard to how Rico moves through the world and how he needs to be able to shoot on a dime and that sort of thing, no matter what sort of physical situation he's in, and that was always in the front of their minds when they were going through and working on Rico. And it just makes me so excited that the game hopefully will run as smoothly as the previous ones did, and as smoothly as it looks to be running in these videos.
That's the sort of video game character I want to be behind the wheel of, so to speak. I want to be playing a video game character who can be doing all kinds of really cool things, but no matter what he's doing, I pull the trigger and he shoots someone. That is the kind of video game character that we need. All right? It's not the one that we deserve, it's the one that we need, Lauren. I also thought it was really interesting how Avalanche was talking about looking back and trying to take all the things from Just Cause 2 that they thought were really, really working, and then how they could bring those into this new game, plug any holes, and find ways to iterate on the gameplay and to innovate with things like the wingsuit, but also how they listened to their community. They talked about how the modding community for Just Cause 2 had shown them that having multiple tether points for the grapple hook was the right way to go. And so that was something that they wanted to integrate as well. And just, it inspires me with a fair degree of confidence when a developer can look back on previous games, which have certainly been successful, and know what made those games good, as opposed to, those kind of awkward moments where it feels like the people who made the game don't really know why people liked it. That's always sort of a letdown, but it seems like Avalanche Studios not falling into that category.
No.
Somebody else who is listening to what their audience has to say is Sony. And
fanboy.
You might not think that they're listening to what you have to say right now, but that's going to change soon, because Vote to Play is just around the corner for PS Plus members, and this is going to allow those of you who are subscribers to PlayStation Plus to vote on one of the PS Plus free games that, of course, comes out each month. We're going to talk about the games that are coming up in August towards the end of this show, because there are definitely some cool ones there. But anyway, Vote to Play is going to let the PlayStation Plus subscriber base vote on one title that'll be made available for free on PlayStation Plus. What do you think, Lauren? Is this a good idea?
I do think it's a good idea. Steam has been doing something similar to this for years during the Steam sales.
Yes, they have.
Where you get to vote on what's going on sale next, and I think it's a lot of fun. And it can be frustrating sometimes when the game you want doesn't make it. But especially if you already own the other two, that seems to happen to me all the time. But they are saying, at least at the beginning right now, the two that don't get voted on, you'll probably get a discount on.
Which is cool.
At least in the first iteration. I think it's a great idea, man. I mean, I think as long as they're, again, we talked about this last week, and we are going to talk about this a little bit later in the show, about this month in particular. But, Sony, as we talked about last week, has been doing a great job with really fostering games for this. Rocket League is still mostly what I've been playing this last week, and I think this is great. As long as they continue to do that, and they're just having people vote on one of the 2 or 3 games that come for free, I think it's a fantastic idea. It gets people involved. It lets them feel like they have a choice, and it lets the customers say, this is what we want. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a win-win-win. I think it's going to be a little challenging for the developers. I don't know how that's structured. Obviously, they don't talk about how that's structured on the back end. So,
they would have had permission from the devs ahead of time. They would have to have had some kind of deal in place ahead of time before they do this, or they'll get themselves in a situation where somebody votes for something that Sony can't put the deal together to make available for free.
Right. I mean, I'm assuming that there'll be something along the lines of, if you get voted as the community choice of the month, you get $200,000 payment from us. Yeah. If you don't get voted as a community choice of the month, you will discount your product by 25% and you'll get $100,000 from us or something. Yeah. Is my assumption of how that works, and so certainly it's going to create, I'm guessing, anxiety from the developers. But I think it's a great idea, man. I don't see a downside to it.
We ought to try to get somebody on who's had a game go free on the PlayStation Plus promotion. We don't have to ask them specific numbers, but I would just love to ask their opinion on what did they think about the process. Were they happy with how it turned out, and those kinds of things.
Well, we happen to have our own resident Outlaw who's developed one of the best games of 2014.
That's true. We ought to talk to James. We ought to get him back on the show.
Yeah, that's right. Ether 1 was a PlayStation Plus game.
So anyway, and just for clarification, the way that this is going to work is you're going to vote, like in the month of August, you're going to vote on the games for September, and so it's going to be, like a month lead out or whatever. So, and as Lauren said, the runner-up game gets discounted but only for PS Plus members. Important to know. So anyway, everybody's gone to the Rapture, Lauren, except you and I. What does that say about us?
Brent went to the Rapture about 45 minutes ago.
Oh, you pre-ordered it, didn't you?
Now, wait a minute. Do not judge me. Do not judge me. Now, wait a minute. Everybody, the entire audience is like, are you fucking kidding me? You just said like 2 weeks ago you weren't going to pre-order anymore.
Are here, Lauren, because we love you.
This is a safe space.
Because you have a problem. No, go ahead.
No. So listen to me. Just listen to me, Brent. God damn it. First of all, it's important that you know that I can stop anytime.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's not like I need to pre-order. I just do it because I want to. I did pre-order this game. It's 20% off on PlayStation. It's a PlayStation exclusive. And I pre-ordered this game. I chose to pre-order this game because I want to give this company my money to support the fact that they're making games like this. Right. I don't care if it's a good game. I'm not concerned based on what I saw with Dear Esther. I'm not concerned about it coming out in a disheveled state, or if it does, I'm confident they will handle it, and maybe they won't. I literally want to give them my money if I never play this game to support their making a game like this. And I think I'm going to like it.
Well, certainly the trailer that we're showing here, which is the launch trailer for Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, is very evocative. And it's interesting in that there is this kind of genre of game that is emerging, and I don't know if it's because it's somewhat easier to do. Maybe that's part of it, but I was thinking of, you mentioned Dear Esther. I was thinking about Ether 1, which we just mentioned a moment ago, and other games in which there really is not any characters. There really are not any characters in the game other than yourself. You're kind of moving through an empty world for one reason or another, and interacting with that world. And in the case of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, it seems like these two characters that we hear speaking on the radio to each other they've meddled with science, and science bit back. But it is very interesting to see that kind of genre of game coming up, and I have to imagine it's easier from the standpoint of not having to model and animate characters. But it also creates it creates tension. I think because we're such social animals, because we thrive on social interaction so much, and when you put us in a situation where there are no other people to interact with, it immediately creates this kind of evocative feeling of being alone and anxiety and all that, and the kinds of games that use that typically do so to great effect. And then at the same time, games like Journey that sort of do that, but then play against it by giving you one other person to sort of interact with and to make that journey with. It also, I think that's the reason. Like the reason that mechanic works so well in Journey is because of the fact that you do start out alone, and then you come across somebody else, and you're like, "Hey, I'm no longer alone," and it draws you to each other.
I don't disagree with that. I don't know. We don't know sort of how this is going to play out in terms of character involved, and everybody's gone to the Rapture. I'm excited for it. I thought the trailer was fantastic. I love that. Companies are making games like this. I want to show my support for these types of games. I want to show my support to Sony that we like these types of games and we want them to continue to be made. And it's just a scant week away. And I have a problem.
No, you don't, Lauren. Because I'm in exactly the same boat as you. It's just that I want to show my support for companies like Jägermeister.
Therefore, you've pre-ordered the new Jägermeister flavor.
I tell you what, if I could pre-order Scotch or Irish whiskey.
What does that mean? Does that mean you like around year 7 you buy it, waiting for when it's going to turn 12?
Yeah. Exactly.
And we're back in the clubhouse, Brent. Before we sit down and have a discussion about GamesCom 2015, would you like to enlighten us as to how the poll played out last week?
Yeah, so we were talking about PS Plus. We were talking about the importance of the free games in PlayStation Plus's online strategy and how that has distinguished them originally from Xbox Live and how that competition is going. We asked, how important to you are free games as part of a console's online service? Here's how the vote shook out, with 14% in third place. You say, I barely pay attention to it. 26% of you said it's the most important single feature for me. But the overwhelming majority, with 60%, said it's fine when the games are actually good. Lauren would accuse you of picking the middle-of-the-road answer, but you must be immune to his disdain.
God, just an audience of moderates. Take a side, people.
That's right, because that's been working out so well recently.
What's interesting, though, to me, Brent, is that if you look at those lists, the people that barely pay attention to it is actually a fairly small number. Which says to me, when you wrote it's fine when the games are actually good, that's not a strong statement, but I do think people pay attention to it, and I think as they get better, and we're going to talk about it again later, that it can have an impact. And I think that the fact that they're compelling each other to actually not just put old games on there, but to actually support and to help develop new experiences that they intend to be part of that package, I think is just good for the consumer all the way around.
I agree. I think that it also distinguishes them somewhat from something like, say, the Steam Summer Sale, which you mentioned earlier. And the Steam Summer Sale is great. It's always a lot of fun, but those games that fall into that category of you can get some really amazing titles and a lot of them for a really small amount of money, it's catalog titles. It's games that have been out for years, where you really are going to see the savings and the benefit of something like the Steam Summer Sale. And I think that one of the distinguishing things about PS Plus and the free games with that, as we're going to discuss, is that oftentimes you see very, very recent games. That's not to say that they're brand new, but games that have come out recently enough, it's things that, I really ought to play that. Nah, I forgot about it, and a few months go by, and wow, now it's free on PlayStation Plus.
Yep. I really do. I think this aspect of the service is fantastic. I love it. I've discovered little gems because of it. Certain games like, again, Ether 1, Rocket League, getting their launch under this program, I think is just fantastic. Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine. I'd be curious, actually, again, to talk to James. And James is listening to this going, guys, I'll come on. For God's sake,
right.
just call me.
Email us, James. We'll set it up.
But I'd be curious to know what their playership numbers were on PC, and then what it looked like when it was the PS Plus game.
I agree. Yeah, that'd be very interesting to know. All right.
Indeed, it would.
So let's talk a little bit about Gamescom. Of course, we mentioned at the top of the show, Gamescom's coming up this weekend in Cologne, Germany.
Yes, it is.
And, of course, I think we all anticipate that there's going to be some excellent stuff shown off there, some news and some reveals and all kinds of goodness. Lauren, why don't you go ahead and just set up what we're going to talk about today?
Gamescom.
Oh, no way. Anyway.
That's, never
useless.
So, yes, as you mentioned, Grant, of course, Gamescom is in Cologne from the 6th to the 9th for the public this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We are expecting to see some interesting things here, although, as the first article in our list O articles points out, Brent, it is a scant 6.5 weeks after the end of E3 2015, which is, I guess, apparently E3 was a week later this year. I don't tend to notice those things, but and so it hasn't been that long since E3. But there is an interesting dynamic going here in that Sony is not coming to Gamescom. Now, that does not mean that there's not going to be any PlayStation games.
It just means they're not doing a press conference.
They're not doing a press conference. Microsoft, however, is fresh on the heels of their launch of I was going to say OS 10 of Windows 10.
That's the other one.
In which their new operating system that has a lot of very close ties to the Xbox, and they're also going to be showcasing a not insignificant amount of some of the really sort of bigger Xbox games to come, Xbox exclusive games that are coming up over the course of the next, anywhere from 9 to 18 months, including games like Crackdown, Quantum Break, Scalebound, I think, is going to be making its first real appearance since E3 2014. They're of course going to be talking about their very timed exclusive, Rise of the Tomb Raider, which we recently found out is a huge timed exclusive on the order of almost a year, I think, right, Brent?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
They're certainly going to be talking about that. DirectX 12 is going to be out there. And so while Sony is going to be there, they're not doing a press conference. Microsoft, it feels like, is going to have a huge presence there, which I think is very, very interesting. They did just announce, leading up to this show, they just announced that all the Gears of War discs, games will be backwards compatible, on Xbox One, which I think, that's obviously a huge franchise.
Yeah, I mean, if there was one thing that they were going to do with this whole backwards compatibility initiative, it's Halo and Gears.
Yeah,
getting those on there, and so having the entire Gears franchise, that's a smart.
Indeed, as well as if you buy the Gears Ultimate Edition, is it the Gears 4 Ultimate Edition?
If you buy the Gears of War Ultimate Edition and play online between August 25th and December 31st this year, then you unlock the Gears of War backwards compatible bundle, and then you also get access to the Gears of War 4 beta, which is spring next year.
Indeed, and so it was very smart of them. So they're going to have a huge presence here at Gamescom, Brent. And so I think that is a very, very big deal. And then, of course, there's also, hopefully, I'm hopeful. So, I mean, I can just talk about the things that I'm really hopeful for. I would like to see Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, I agree. I want to. That's the PlayStation exclusive from Guerrilla, from Guerrilla, who previously worked on Killzone.
Former makers of Killzone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
There are more Killzone games than I realized.
So I'm really hopeful we're going to see more of Star Wars Battlefront. I'm really hopeful we're going to see more of the new Mirror's Edge game. There's several games that I want to see. I'm also particularly, I'm sure this will come as no shock to you, Brent, very excited about perhaps seeing more from VR.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
This is sort of the big. I mean, so this was interesting, Brent. I don't know if you knew this. This is a little bit of an aside, but when you were reading the first article in this, and they talked about the number of attendees at E3 versus Gamescom. Did you read that piece of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, Gamescom's open to the public, so I mean, it's like they're expecting, or no, like what was the number last year? Like 335,000 or something like that.
This is what they said. Yeah, 335,000 in 2014 compared to E3's 48,000.
Now, again, E3 is an industry-only event.
Absolutely, and I knew that. I don't think I knew the disparity was that great.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, to me, you'd be better off comparing this to something like, I don't know, like PAX or something like that, that's open to the public. I think that the numbers between those two events would be more comparable. Probably
more comparable. Yeah, again, I didn't realize personally that the numbers, I knew they would be disparate. I didn't know they would be that far apart.
Right.
So this is arguably, potentially, depending on the release date, the last big show before some of the VR players come out. Now, theoretically, as far as I know, the Vive is supposed to still come out this fall. Nobody thinks that's going to actually happen, but that's what they say. And Oculus is supposed to come out in Q1 of 2016, which could be as early as January.
Well, and the thing about the Vive is that what games are we going to be playing on that? Like Oculus has the Oculus Talk games, during their E3 press event, and I'm kind of at the point where I feel like we've talked about the technology. Everybody kind of understands the importance of refresh rates and resolution and cutting down on the lag that'll make you seasick. And, like, it feels like we're kind of like past all that stuff. We're down to the point now, games are the thing that is really going to sell VR. And I'm kind of with you. I'm very curious to know if at Gamescom we see even more VR games being shown off as we get closer and closer. Because I mean, that at that point, or at this point, that is the thing that I, as somebody very interested in VR, that's what I want more of. I mean, I want more and more people coming out of these shows saying, I played X and such on VR and it's changed my life forever.
I don't disagree with that. And this is what the author of again, the Wired article we're linking to, Matt Common, this is what he alludes to, is that his belief is that we're going to see more of the actual software at Gamescom, which is perhaps the most intriguing thing to me. Exactly. What about you, Brent? Are there specific things that you're looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take anything I can get on Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. Yeah. I am very, very excited about that. I echo what you were saying about Horizon Zero Dawn. We saw that brief gameplay trailer at E3. Definitely an interesting looking game, and I'm very curious to see anything else they want to show off there. The one thing that I was kind of interested in, but that we didn't see anything of at E3, and I don't know if we'll see anything at the Gamescom either, but is this new Hitman game. I'm really curious to see what some of the concepts and mechanics they've talked about actually translates into for gameplay. I'm very, very curious to see something substantive from this new Hitman game.
Indeed.
I tell you one thing that, and I guess you mentioned the new Mirror's Edge. Did you talk about Mass Effect?
I did not.
Mass Effect Andromeda. I'm down for whatever that's going to be. I'm very curious to see where they steer the Mass Effect series now that I guess the Shepard trilogy is over. Star Wars Battlefront. That game's coming out in November?
It's weird because I feel like there's been this little bit of a drought, and I keep thinking to myself, like, oh, there's not that much coming up. There's not that much coming up. And suddenly as we start to approach it, I feel like, oh, wait a minute. There's Just Cause 3. Oh, there's Star Wars Battlefront. There's MGS 5. I'm very excited about Until Dawn. I keep forgetting about these games. And so I do think that comes out in November. That is damn sure one I'm waiting for the launch on, though.
Yeah, I'm very, very curious to see them show off Battlefront. I'm curious if we'll see. I'm curious if they'll reveal like maybe any new environments. Like we kind of saw the Tatooine-esque environment, the Hoth-esque environment. I'm curious if they're going to show off some of the other places, do a big reveal that way. And then the other game that we mentioned earlier in the show that we're going to actually be finding out something about this week is Mafia 3, and I'm really curious about Mafia 3. I'm anxious to see what they do with the series at this point, and perhaps that's something that they're going to reveal now, and then have a little bit more of a presence at Gamescom. Maybe we'll see some demo footage or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I also am very, very curious about that one. That was high on my list as well. I was a big fan of Mafia 2. So what I think I'm perhaps most curious about, Brent, is what we will be talking about next week. You and I were talking as we prepped the show. I'm curious to see next week if we just mention sort of a couple trailers at the top of the show as we're talking about different stories in the garage, or if there will actually be enough content coming out of Gamescom for us to talk about it in the clubhouse. I'm actually very curious to see, sort of how Gamescom plays out, if it ends up being a big deal this year or not.
Yeah, I am too. And the thing about it is, I think it really is all just down to what the companies choose they're going to let go of at Gamescom. Sony probably not going to be making any big reveals. Like, the only things that we'll probably see from Sony are things that we've already known about to one degree or another. Microsoft, on the other hand, because they do have this momentum behind them right now, because they are obviously very hungry and trying very hard to reclaim the top spot, it might behoove them to try and lay some pretty big news out with their Gamescom presence. And I think that, obviously, given the fact that traditionally the Xbox does not sell as well in Europe as the PlayStation has, that's a territory where they've got everything to gain there. They got absolutely nothing to lose from pulling out all the stops. So I'm very curious as well to see if there are any kind of clear winners, losers, if there's any kind of unexpected surprises. Anyway,
Right.
That was terrible.
As opposed to those expected surprises.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, I am curious if there are any big surprises that kind of take us off guard and end up becoming the real news of the show.
Yeah, indeed. And you know what? I really would like for our listeners, I know we have a lot of listeners over in Europe. If you head over to Gamescom, please come back into the show notes and share your experiences with us. We want to hear your comments. I'm sure we will be talking about it next week in one form or another. And we want to hear what your experiences are because, God damn it, we don't get to go. All right, guys, it's time to head out on the road. Brent, we only got a couple of games this week.
That's
And
fine.
I hate to disappoint the listeners, but they're the same games we talked about last week.
Well, we are in a bit of a lull right now. We're waiting on some hot stuff to come out. We're waiting on Batman Arkham Knight to get fixed, and
Everyone's gone to the Rapture next week.
That might happen this month. You never know. But yeah, for right now, I still maintain my vigilance over my dwellers in Fallout Shelter. My second vault has now surpassed my first vault. I think I'm up to like 152 dwellers now. So
when this shit actually launches on Android, can I send my dwellers over to your vault to attack your fucking dwellers?
No, but God, that would be awesome.
Because frankly, like the anal nature with which you've constructed your shelter,
you would just like to see it torn asunder.
Really rubs me the wrong way, and I would like to come over there and just mess shit up.
Well, you know, actually, that's kind of interesting because they could do something along the lines of like Star Wars Battlefront, where you have like your kind of base building part of the game, which is
Battlefront or Star Wars Commander.
Excuse me, Star Wars Commander. Pardon me.
Yeah.
Star Wars Commander, and then you've got your base building part of the game, which is what we know right now is to be Fallout Shelter. But it would be interesting, you know, because you have to like go out and you have to acquire weapons and you have to scavenge for uniforms, which of course upgrade stats and things like that. And it would be very interesting if they did introduce a mechanic into the game where you could send dwellers out to raid other camps and things like that. But I guess I don't think that it meshes with their sort of philosophy of the game being available to you offline, which is awesome in one sense. I mean, I really dig the fact that it's not dependent on an internet connection, and there have been a couple of times where I've played Fallout Shelter where I didn't have access to an internet connection, so I've benefited from that. However, there are times when I really wish that I could hand my iPad to Zeely so that she could play some of her alphabet games and things like that, and let her do that and let her keep herself quiet and occupied, and I could pull out my iPhone and I could check in on my vault and see how it's going. And I can play Fallout Shelter on my phone. I can create a vault there, but they don't synchronize across devices because, again, not dependent on an internet connection.
Yeah, that never. Yeah.
So, you know, that's one of those things that like you're getting something, but you are definitely giving something up. And you know, like if I play Star Wars Commander, I can do that. You know, if I log into Star Wars Commander on my phone or my iPad or whatever, you know, it's my game and I can check in on it from any device, and that's convenient. There's times when I definitely wish I could do that.
That is, you know, I had never thought about that.
Yeah. So anyway, but other than that, my survival in the Wasteland's going just fine. If Lauren Baumgarten has his way, that will change. So just remember.
That's a true story.
If you are trying to survive the nuclear holocaust, Lauren hates you.
That's right. The next game up, Brent, I'm hoping you're going to tell me you played this week.
Yeah, I played Rocket League, son. Yeah.
How did it go?
Dude, it's fucking awesome. You know, my in-laws were visiting over the weekend, and I showed them those segments on Top Gear, the ones I mentioned to you, where they played car football. The first one was with the Toyota Aygo. Ostensibly, it was to find out whether or not the Aygo was a really good town car. You know, like was it nimble and swift and able to brake and accelerate and do all those things that you need to do with a tiny car in a big city. And so in order to ascertain that, they played football 5-on-5 with Toyota Aygos. And then later on, they did Aygo versus the VW Fox. And then I can't remember what the other match was now. But anyway, the point is that I went and watched those, and I can't tell you how it's re-energized me for Rocket League. I'm so happy that somebody made this game. Like, it's a game that needed to happen and has now.
It is. It's great. It's fantastic. It is tons of fun. Are you any good at it?
Nah, I wish I could say yes, but no, I'm not. I'm not really that good at it.
I also played.
I struggle.
This literally is the only game I played this week.
Are you any good at it?
I keep going back and forth because I actually started doing I started watching some Let's Play videos and some tutorials. And,
so you started getting serious.
So I started looking at like camera settings. I don't know if you remember this.
Do you do the follow the ball camera where the camera just always is on the ball?
So when I last spoke to you, I only did the follow the ball camera.
Yeah.
And I learned that that's not a successful way to play at the highest levels. And so I started learning not to, and I switched back and forth between. I primarily play with the camera off now.
Yeah.
And I switch it to the ball cam if I'm feeling disoriented
in front of your car.
What's that?
And you could, meaning that the camera is facing the front of your car, and you can pan it around if you want to, but it's going to default to just always facing ahead of your car.
Right. And so I only switch over to the ball cam where it's fixed on the ball if I am turned around and don't know where the ball is.
Right.
But mostly I play with it, or if the ball is really, really, really high above me, I will switch to the ball cam so I can watch it coming down.
Yeah.
But other than that, I pretty much play with it focused on the front of the car. I've also started playing with the camera, and you can really raise up the angle of the camera or lower it down so it's further behind your car. You can actually, the default field of view is 90 degrees, I believe. You can extend that to like 110, which gives you a lot wider view of the field, but it makes everything look further away. And so I've been playing with that. And so I kind of go back and forth between being, as I play with the camera settings, misjudging jumps and stuff like that because I feel like the ball is closer than it is or whatever. So I have some, sometimes I play and I just play out of my head and I'm just doing some amazing shit. And sometimes I play and I feel like I can't even hit one ball the whole game.
Yeah.
But I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love that I can play it for 20 minutes. I love that when I do get on to play it for 20 minutes, I end up playing it for 2 hours and don't even notice it. I just think it's a tremendously fun game. And I seriously would like, so the equivalent of like an NVIDIA Shield, but that's just Rocket League.
I would like a game console that does nothing but Rocket League.
No, I mean it's like the old days when you used to buy like the handheld football game and stuff like that.
Like the Tiger football games.
Yeah, I mean I pay like $35, $40, $50 for a handheld device that just lets me play Rocket League, so I always have Rocket League with me. But not shitty like my phone. I want tactile like nubs to control and
this seems like it'd be a prime candidate for porting to the PS Vita.
Absolutely, I think it would absolutely.
I wonder if they have any thoughts or designs maybe on doing something like that.
I did get the chance to play with some of the Outlaw crew. It was tons of fun. Really, just loving that game, and I'm so excited that you're playing it, Brent. I want you to keep playing it, and I want to have a game session where we play together.
Yeah, I totally want to do that as well. Although you'll be infinitely better than I am at this point. But
excellent. Well, if you can just get rid of your daughter for a day or two.
Yeah, probably not. She's kind of in that phase where she needs to eat and poop, and she needs help with these things. So not so much.
You know what, Brent? You know what? It was not like this between us before she was born, and ever since she's been here.
You're so uncommitted since your child came along.
All right, so let's head into the sunset, Brent. We just got a couple last things to talk about. So for mine, Brent, I just and we talked about this earlier in the show, but I really wanted to call it out separately, and that is the PS Plus games for August this year. They are, at the time of this recording, they are live and available. The ones for they all look fantastic. The ones for the PS4 are what stood out for me because that's obviously the console I have, and they're just incredible games this week. Or this month. We have Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris, which I've never played. I'm
so excited about that.
The second, did you play this? I can't remember.
I haven't played it yet. No, this is the follow-up to Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, which I loved. One of my favorite games.
That's absolutely right, and I'm very excited about that. Limbo, which I have played, but is a fantastic game. It's the one game out of these. There's 4 games this month for PS4. Sound Shapes, which was a game that I think originally was on the PS Vita, is supposed to be a fantastic game and just not one that ever grabbed me enough to actually make the purchase. I'm super excited to get to try it for free. And then also Stealth Inc. 2, a game of clones.
Oh, man, that looks so fun.
Which I haven't played either of the Stealth Inc. games, but I've heard nothing but good things about the Stealth Inc. games as well, and so I'm really excited to get a chance to try those as well. So just a phenomenal lineup in the August games for PS4, and I felt like it deserved its own shout out. You guys should go check it out if you have the PS4. Make sure you add these games to your library so you can download them later.
Yep, I'm on it right now. Actually, if you want to just keep talking, I'm just going to go ahead and finish shopping here.
For Brent's Into the Sunset, he really wants to give a shout out to his co-host.
Mister, I can't talk long enough for Brent to order all the new PlayStation Plus free games. What a great pal he is. My Into the Sunset this week is going to be on the PlayStation blog, actually. It's an article by Alex Wiltshire from Hello Games, and it's titled 41 Amazing Things About No Man's Sky. And it's sort of it's almost an FAQ for questions that you might not think to ask. So, as an example, they talk about the universe isn't actually infinite. Computers can't do infinity very well, but there are 18,446 quadrillion planets in the universe. If you visited each one for a single second, it would take you 585 billion years to see them all. So, not infinite.
Technically not
infinite, but for all intents and purposes, infinite. Planets have day and night cycles. The closer a planet is to a star, the more barren it is. The farther away it is, the more cold it is. And if it's in that Goldilocks zone, which we hear so much about these days, it will have a greater likelihood of having plant and animal life. There's just all kinds of really interesting things about combat, about the way that the economy works, the way that exploration is designed to work, music, all of that stuff. It's just a really, really interesting bullet list of things that are noteworthy about No Man's Sky. And if you are interested in this game, as Lauren and I certainly are, it's worth a couple minutes to just scroll through here. Some of these things you're going to know, some of these things you probably aren't going to know, but they're all very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting too, Brent. I'm excited to read through it. One of the things that I thought was interesting is it says that the universe isn't stored on your hard disk or on a server somewhere.
Yeah, it's generated.
The world around you is generated by your PS4 at the point you visit it. Leave it, and it's all thrown away. And if you return, it is generated again exactly as it was. Yeah. Also means the game will be completely playable offline.
Because it's just math, baby. That's all it is. It's just math.
It's very cool stuff here. I'm very excited to dig into it and read it.
As am I.
Excellent. All right, with that, Brent, we're going to call it a show. Another one in the can. As usual, we want to hear what you guys, the listeners, have to say about everything we talked about, whether it's No Man's Sky, PS Plus games for August, Rocket League, Fallout Shelter, GamesCom, and what you're excited for, what your experience is, or everybody's gone to the Rapture. The fact that you get to vote for the PS Plus games coming to PS Plus members, Just Cause 3, only good things, please, and Metal Gear Solid 5. We want to hear what your thoughts are on that and anything else to do with gaming or the world of gaming. As usual, he is Brent Adams. I am Lauren Baumgarten. And remember, you don't stop playing because you get old. You get old because you stop playing.